What if I told you the most famous war between England and France lasted over a century? 116 years of brutal conflict. It was a long and brutal struggle between two powerful nations, England and France, and its impact would shape the future of both countries. Now, the war began in 1337, when King Edward III of England, the grandson of Philip IV of France, claimed the French throne. Now, the issue arose after the death of the French King Charles IV, who left no male heir. Edward, through his mother, believed that he had the strongest claim. However, the French nobles chose Philip VI, a cousin of the previous king, to take the throne. Now, this sparked tensions between England and France, setting the stage for a century-long conflict. But it wasn't just a dynastic dispute. The war was driven by many factors, including territorial ambitions and economic interests. One key economic motive was control over the rich wool trade between England and Flanders. The English had long dominated this lucrative market, but the French sought to break that hold, further escalating tensions. Both nations saw the war as not only a battle for power, but also for control over important resources. Now, this geographical landscape of Western Europe, with its patchwork of territories, alliances, and vassal states, further complicated the conflict. England and France vied for control of key regions like Normandy, Gascony, and Flanders, and the war would be fought on multiple fronts across these territories. Understanding the map of medieval Europe is crucial to understanding the shifting dynamics of this conflict. As the war loomed, both sides scrambled to prepare. England and France built alliances, raised armies, and strategized for what would become a long and bloody series of campaigns. The war saw a constant struggle for power and territory, with each side striving for dominance, but neither able to secure a quick victory. In the early years of the war, the English, under Edward III, launched several successful raids into French territory, capturing key towns and fortresses. Notably, Edward's forces won decisive victories at the battles of Crécy and Calais. Now, however, the French fought back very fiercely. They adopted a scorched earth strategy, destroying crops and villages to deprive the English army of resources and supplies. The war was brutal, and it saw the rise of new military tactics. The English longbowmen, famed for their skill and range, were especially effective in battles against the heavily armored French knights. The French, in contrast, focused on a war of attrition, attempting to wear down the English with sieges, ambushes, and guerrilla warfare. One of the most iconic leaders to emerge during the war was Edward, the Black Prince, son of Edward III. Renowned for his military brilliance, he led the English to victory at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356, where King John II of France was captured. However, despite these English successes, the war was far from over. As the conflict dragged on, the fortunes of both sides kind of shifted. In 1415, one of the most famous battles of the war took place, the Battle of Agincourt. A heavily outnumbered English force led by King Henry V faced a massive French army. Thanks to the skill of the English longbowmen and the very difficult terrain, the French suffered a devastating defeat. Agincourt became a symbol of English tenacity and tactical prowess, but it did not mark the end of the conflict. Even after Agincourt, the French refused to surrender. France was far from defeated, and over the next few decades, they slowly began to reclaim their lost territory. Under the leadership of figures like Joan of Arc and King Charles VII, France rallied, turning the tide of the war. The Siege of Orleans in 1429 marked a major turning point, with Joan of Arc leading a successful French defense against the English. By the mid-15th century, both nations were exhausted. The war had ravaged their lands and economies, and neither side could afford to continue fighting. In 1453, the English suffered a decisive defeat at the Battle of Castillon, effectively marking the end of the 100 Years' War. England's territorial claims in France were reduced to just the port city of Calais, which they would hold for another century. The conflict officially ended without a formal peace treaty, but the Treaty of Picquigny, signed in 1475 between Edward IV of England and Louis VI of France, finally put an end to hostilities between the two countries. By then, the war had transformed both nations. It played a critical role in shaping the national identities of England and France and marked the decline of feudalism in favor of a more centralized modern state. The 100 Years' War was more than just a dynastic struggle. It was a conflict that saw the rise of new military technologies, tactics, and leaders. It also left deep scars on both nations, shaping the political and cultural landscape of Europe for centuries to come. Today, the legacy of the 100 Years' War lives on. England and France's long history of rivalry is deeply rooted in this conflict, and its events continue to capture our imaginations. From the heroic tales of Joan of Arc to the legendary victories of English kings, the Hundred Years' War was a powerful reminder of the complexities of medieval warfare and politics. So what do you think? Does this epic war intrigue you as much as it does us? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you're new here, consider subscribing for more videos on medieval history. And make sure that you check out our other content for more deep dives into the past. Hey, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on our next adventure.